Live from the Export Beer Garden studios, you're listening to the BYC, where we'll be reflecting on what has been an excellent Cricket World Cup. As painful as it is to acknowledge, we have to tip our hats to the dirty, filthy, cheating Aussies. They timed the tournament to perfection. After a rocky start, they came home with a full head of steam and completely destroyed the Indian party to claim their sixth title. It was in many ways the perfect performance, with Travis Head playing the innings of a lifetime. As always, our boys were there or thereabouts, but ultimately didn't have the firepower to prevail. So let's get into it. And Dylan, I haven't seen you since the final. Your thoughts on that, mate?
Yeah, as you mentioned, painful to admit it, but Australia just did it perfectly.
Yes.
I think we mentioned in the special that they figured it out at the right time. We were taking great glee. I think we even printed it out, the table after 2 rounds where Australia was rock bottom.
Yes.
England weren't far above them. And, yeah, by the time it rolled around, familiar scene. For the 6th time, Australia wins it.
Yeah. I mean, what was your view on it, Paul Ford?
Yeah, sensational. I mean, when the Australian team are talking about it as their greatest ever World Cup victory, and they've got heaps to choose from, they've done something pretty incredible, and yeah, it really does feel like they flipped the script with that win. And of course, let's not forget, India did 10 in a row and Australia did 9 in a row in the end. And they were absolutely phenomenal. They had some luck. They were ruthless once they got their foot on the throat, and that's just an absolute classic for Australian teams. Corner them, and if they get a hold of you, they will grind you into the dust. And that's what Travis Head and that triumvirate of extremely good fast bowlers did in that final.
Yeah, I had right from the get-go in that match, a strange feeling in my testicles, Dylan Cleaver. They looked relaxed and happy at the start of the game. The Aussies, they had that weird sway going on when they did the anthem, but they were on fire, and I felt that India always looked precarious in their batting innings, so full credit to the Australians, as much as it pains me to say that. But let's get into it. Where do we want to start here, fellas? Roll call, attendance issues.
Yeah, I think we should
at the
do
start
a roll
there.
call. Because what you gave then was actually some exceptional analysis that would have been appreciated the morning after.
Yes.
But we were waiting, and unfortunately only Paul Stewart Ford and myself turned up for that one.
Yeah. I'll have a relook at my contract.
Yeah, there was some correspondence about this. It was quite incestuous correspondence, I'd probably describe it as, expressing a disappointment and maybe a sort of querying your commitment, Jace.
Yes.
Do you think that's fair?
Well, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch the entire game live. So I would still have been working on my thoughts on it, and I have many. But yes, I mean, let's remember at the start of this tournament, there were attendance issues, and everyone was going, what the hell's going on? Why are the bloody crowds in India so tired, so tiny and tired?
Yeah, tired. Well, they were very tired, but I saw some stat that they raced past the attendance record in the last week. I think they got to 1.6 million came through the gate, which was a tiny fraction of the population of 1.4595 billion. But well done to them. And the most concurrent streams, which I suspect is a very modern piece of data analysis.
Yeah, good luck with that on the 1983 World Cup. Yeah, I mean, I guess there was, on attendance, it's an interesting, great segue from you, Jace, to extricate yourself from under that bus. But the tournament started with an empty stadium as New Zealand played England and pounded them into the turf, and then finished with an empty stadium as basically every single Indian fan left the building to before Australia got awarded the World Cup. So yeah, empty stadium is a bit of a eyesore during this tournament. And I did see that despite the promises and despite Ravi Shastri screaming and yelling about it at the start of the match, there were more spectators at the World Cup final that I went to with Jeremy Wells and G Lane in 2015 at the MCG. 92,000 versus 93,000. So
okay.
There you go.
Wow. Because, I mean, that in that final, that crowd was a sight to behold. It was just utterly magnificent, a sea of blue. It blew me away. It was superb. Now, let's get into the prize-giving ceremony, Cummins versus Modi, and the booing.
Yeah, it left a little bit of a bad taste in the mouth, actually, particularly the booing of the match officials. There was zero controversial calls in that final, except maybe, and this is the mechanics of the actual decision-making rather than decision-making itself. You could argue that they got very unlucky with Marlon Slabashane if he had been given out on the field, he would have been confirmed out by DRS. But that's just the way it works. It's not as if anyone doctored that particular situation to suit Australia. So to hear poor old Kettleborough and Illingworth get booed as they came to the stage was just a bit bizarre. And again, it gave the sense that this was not really a global cricket extravaganza. This was meant to be a coronation for India.
Sure.
And it didn't pan out.
Well, further to that decision, by the way, that you're talking about, Dylan, I mean, it's viewed by all cricketers and by umpires alike, I would imagine, that, a ball clipping the outside of leg stump given not out is a good decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's actually a really good decision. Batsmen are filthy if they're given out LBW and the ball was just nicking the edge of leg stump. In fact, it's viewed, Paul Ford, as a poor decision.
Yeah. Oh, and of all the things that got tipped in India's favour, it does not feel like the umpiring in the final was one that was actually tipped against them. And I just think, it was pretty crappy actually, and there was quite a bit of chit chat from people that know the cultures of the different Indian grounds that this is kind of standard for this part of the world. You probably wouldn't have got that from a more cricket savvy crowd up in Mumbai, a bit less hero worship up there. I think that's arguable, the second point, but it was quite amazing seeing Pat Cummins and great camera work, just zooming in and not really zooming out to show Narendra Modi shaking the hands of all the Australian players and just having Pat Cummins stand there super awkwardly, but with a slight smile and I'm sure internal joy. And of course, no champagne when they got it. Dry state, yeah. Gujarat, and so no booze even in the dressing room, and they finally got stuck into some champagne and finally did their punishing team song back at the hotel. There was a great quote from the Herald Sun which said the only evidence of alcohol was in a photo of Mitch Marsh holding what appeared to be an empty beer while he rested his legs on the trophy. The only other obvious sign was in a series of selfies from Travis Head, each one showing the man of the match looking more and more dishevelled. I thought was a nice quote.
More and more tired.
Yes. Steamed. Hey, now let's discuss the best Cricket World Cup semi-final Quinella performance, Travis Head. Can
I just say this is one of the nerdiest questions that you asked during the specials, Dylan? Well done from you.
Yes. And Jack has some correspondence on that. Surely it's bloody Inzi in the 1992 World Cup semi and final. He did nothing all tournament, then showed up to invent T20 cricket as he clobbered us and the Poms. It wasn't the weight of runs, but the speed that took those games away. OFC, Akram and the others were match winners, but I would argue Inzi 92 is the definition of stepping up in elimination matches.
You're probably not surprised to know I did a bit of research here. And Inzi, I'll go through it and I'll let you decide. So we've got Travis Head, who I believe actually takes out this title. 2 for 21 in the semi-final of 5 overs and 62 in a low-scoring game. Then 0 for 4 off 2 overs in the final and 137 to lead his team to victory. That, for me, is
superb.
Gold standard.
And don't forget that magnificent catch.
Magnificent catch and great part of a great fielding pack. Okay, so 1975, you've got no candidate that did well in both games. 1979, you've got Viv Richards, you've got 42 in the semi-final and 3 for 52, and then you got 138 not out and 0 for 35 in the final against England. 1983, you had Mahinda Amanathu, who scored 46 and took 2 for 27 in the semi-final.
Off 92 balls.
On 92 balls, yeah. Then 26 off 80-something balls and 3 for 12 in a very low-scoring final. So we can forgive him for that. David Boone scored 65 and 75 and 87 in a World Cup virtually no one saw. 92, we have Inzi 60 and 30. And I'm just not convinced by that. That's not enough. Aravinda de Silva had an amazing tournament in 96, 66 in the semi-final, 3 for 42 and 107 not out against Australia in the final.
Warney. A chasing ton as well. Sensational knock.
Warney, 4 for 29 in that incredible semi-final against South Africa where they won from nowhere, and then 4 for 33 in the final against Pakistan, and Pakistan didn't show up. 2003, 7-11, no candidate that did anything spectacular in both games. 2015, again, painful to say this, but Smudge, Steve Smith, 105 in the semi-final off 93 balls and 56 not out again in a low-scoring chase against New Zealand. And in 2019, no candidate. I have to go Travis Head. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. Particularly when you factor in the fielding too. It's all part of the overall performance. I'd agree with you. Well
Thank
done,
you.
Dylan.
I'm going Aravinda.
Aravinda?
Yeah.
Changed the world for Sri Lanka in his with his 2 matches.
You're an old.
Let's not forget that innings of 66 in that semi-final. That game got called off because there was a riot because India were going to lose. Like that tipped the global cricketing universe on its axis. Those 2 matches. But Head was magnificent. I'm not deriding it. I think it's a good competition.
He did also have to nurse Arjuna Ranatunga through a series of serious cramps in that final too. So, yeah, gets bonus points for that.
Yes, indeed. Waiting. Post-tournament fallout and dramas, social media abuse, Babar Azam.
No, he's resigned all forms of captaincy.
Yes.
Yep.
Fair enough. And,
and the point on the social media abuse, you've got people like Glenn Maxwell's wife, who is Indian, getting absolutely torn to shreds. You've got people posting about to Australians wanting to kill themselves, go kill yourself, all that sort of stuff. You've got Jimmy Neesham had a magnificent response. Not sure if you guys saw this, which was him responding to someone who'd told him to go kill himself, and he'd basically just re-quoted that message, put it up, and said, "When people don't understand the difference between Australia and New Zealand."
Yes. Well, you remember when I think
sad
massive fallout when India lost to us in the semi-final. There was death threats and all sorts. A lot of them didn't go home.
Oh, you're talking 4 years ago?
Yes. That was horrendous. I mean, so it was always going to be on the cards that should they lose this match, the proverbial shit was going to hit the fan on social media. Mitchell Marsh, God, the disrespect, feet on the trophy, having a cold beersy, Dylan.
Yeah, well, I think worse things have been on that trophy. Isn't there some rumour that G Lane's ballsack has been on that trophy? Or is that a different one? Is that the Chapel Hadley?
That was the Chapel Hadley. That was that's almost defamatory, Dylan. So, you should be looking out for a lawyer's letter from G Lane for repeating that allegation.
Just on that whole G Lane thing, I'm one. It's more a case of what his testicles haven't been on. I mean, I commentated once with G Lane's testicles on my head, and that's the truth. Weighty bastards they were.
You weren't happy about that either, Jason, as I recall.
No, I wasn't. We got a bit of correspondence there from David O. Paul Ford.
Yeah, we do. Turning into something of a regular correspondent. Thanks, David. First and foremost, a wonderful job during the World Cup. Paul and Dylan for those bonus podcasts, not you, Jace. Thank you. I did feel that there was an inevitability. Well, it's good of David to put that in. I did feel that there was an inevitability about the result of the final once Travis Head got going and Labuschagne dropped anchor. Undoubtedly, Head batted superbly, but the IPL age where players have great experience of playing in subcontinental conditions, the Aussies had the tactical know-how and skill to put out a performance like that. There were times when India had chances to get back into it, but it was not meant to be. More importantly, I think New Zealand did well overall, on no one's radar as usual, but once again proved the doubters wrong. And after years of relying on our bowling, it seems our batting is now our strength, with Mitchell and Ravindra rightly making the BBC team of the tournament. I'm looking forward to future podcasts following the Kiwis and New Zealand domestic game as the days get shorter and colder over here in the UK. Cheers, David.
Yeah, just as a quick sideline too, in terms of the New Zealand performance, yes, good. But it's, it always feels like we're there or thereabouts. We never, are we ever going to win it, Dylan?
Well, 4 years ago, we were very
close.
Very
close. I know.
This kind of felt like the tail end of that generation.
Yes.
There were some excellent things that I think we've already discussed. Mitchell, Ravindra, just superb. And a couple of worrying trends which they need to address, which is the pace bowling stocks.
Yes.
Once the pride and joy of New Zealand cricket, our ability to just churn out these really good fast medium paces looked all of a sudden very, very thin and quite old.
Yes.
I think we need to host another Cricket World Cup. That's our best chance, and I'm not being sort of flippant about that. When you're the host, it does seem that you overperform or are much more likely to make the last two, and I think that will give us the best chance. Next World Cup's in South Africa Namibia, and Zimbabwe. So I probably wouldn't be putting the house on it for 2027.
Yeah, I think the bowling department is at the area of concern for us, and that's I was saying in the intro there. We just sort of lack the firepower at the end of the day at the big games. But the ICC tournament team, which we had a little chat about on our what is it called? WhatsApp. Quinton de Kock, South Africa. Rohit Sharma, captain, India. Virat Kohli, India. Daryl Mitchell, New Zealand at 4. 5, KL Rahul, India. Glenn Maxwell at 6. 7, Ravindra Jadeja. 8, Jasprit Bumrah. 9, Dilshan Murashankar from Sri Lanka. 10, Adam Zampa. 11, Mohammad Shami. 12th man, Gerald Coetzee, South Africa. I don't have much of a quibble with that team, fellas, but I believe that Rachin should be in there.
I have a couple of quibbles, but first of all, can I just congratulate you on the lyrical way that you went from Murashankar of Sri Lanka into Zampa. That was just superb.
Thanks, mate.
I think we're going to have people all around the country hitting that minus 10 seconds button just to re-listen to it a few times.
I can. Yeah, sure. Why not?
I have quibbles.
What a surprise.
We've got 2 wicket keepers in there, totally unnecessary, particularly when KL Rahul's keeping was absolute dog poop in that final and probably cost India a good 20 runs in his keeping alone. So he wouldn't make it because he wouldn't keep. Quinton de Kock would keep. So that is the slot where I would probably put Rachin Ravindra.
Yes.
The other thing is that India didn't win this tournament. I know they were dominant throughout, but they didn't win it, and they have 6 players in the starting 11. There's no Travis Head, who, as we've mentioned before, almost won the World Cup on his own. There's no David Warner, who scored a bucket load of runs during the World Cup. How does Ravi Jadeja get in? He didn't have one score above 40 in the World Cup, admittedly probably with fewer opposition opportunities because of the runs that India's top order got. But he's there as an all-rounder. He didn't have one score above 40 on wickets that absolutely suit him down to the ground. He took 16 wickets during the tournament, which is about 1.5 every game he played. That, for me, feels like a real stretch there. So quibbles I do have.
Pull forward.
Yeah, I'd love to see Ravindra in there. I thought Klaasen might be worth a mention. Williamson, just from a New Zealand perspective, he averaged 85 and can't make the team, but that's because of Virat Kohli, the Rat King. So fair enough, I guess. I think Bumrah's pretty high at number 8 in that batting order. So, yeah, I think a fix along the lines of what Dylan suggested. And I did want to give a shout-out to Ravi Ashwin, who had the best economy rate in the whole tournament. He played 1 match and took 1 for 34. And also Mohammad Nabi, the Afghani, who played 9 matches and economy rate of 4.13. Thought he might have been worth chucking him in there just for a little bit of diversity. Great
stuff, mate. Your player of the tournament, Dylan Cleaver.
Again, it's very heavily weighted towards the knockouts, so I have to go. I know he wasn't even there for the start. He was at home with a broken hand, but I have to go Travis Head. If not him, Virat Kohli. Boring, but there you go.
Paul Ford.
Yeah, they'd be up there. I think those are the 2 obvious choices. I reckon Mohammad Shami, again, he didn't play all the games, but I thought he was absolutely magnificent for India. So, yeah, he'd be right up there for me as well.
For me, I'm going to go Rachin again. He's been such a revelation. And, all those players you mentioned, you'd expect them to be player of the tournament. They're the sort of superstar players. But Rachin just, I think, took the world by storm and surprised everyone, including myself.
And himself, I think.
And himself, probably, at just how good he is, a player. And it gives me great hope for the future. And Mitchell, too.
What number do you bet him in Bangladesh? He's got to make the playing 11, doesn't he, for the testing?
Yes.
We should have a chat about that. We've got a bit of correspondence about that coming up.
Yeah. Okay. Instead, we'll go into Paul Ford's Cricket World Cup Shenanigans 11. Paul Ford.
Here we go. Shakib Al Hasan for appealing for a timed-out dismissal and then getting it. Angelo Matthews for sprinting out to the middle versus New Zealand after being timed out. At number 3, an unnamed person from the Mumbai Cricket Association for admitting the Indian team asked for a semi-final pitch that was slow and had all the grass shaved off it. Number 4, Alex Carey, the Australian wicketkeeper, 1 match, 1 bat, 2 balls, no runs. Number 5, Baz de Leader, 10 overs, 2 for 115 versus Australia. dreadful. Number 6, Bavuma, falling asleep at the captain's press conference, then tripping on a boundary rope Toblerone after being dismissed. Number 7, Rohit Sharma for conspiracy theories about the coin being thrown too high and too far at the toss. Number 8, Mujib for forgetting his box versus Bangladesh, which was almost painful. Number 9, the crowd in the opening game and at the end of the closing game. Glenn Maxwell at number 10 for going full salmon. And at number 11, the David Beckham, I assume impersonator from Madame Tussauds, who seemed to be in the stands at the Mumbai semi-final versus Aotearoa. And 12th man, who could forget Virat Kohli in his punishing red skivvy, tied with Shane Watson's pink dress shirt as the substitute fielder, bulging at the seams it was. What did I miss, boys?
I just thought of a couple of things. Matt Hayden's commentary, full stop.
Your vendetta.
Low-lighted.
Yes.
Yeah, low-lighted in the final when he said, when he mentioned Travis had hit a boundary, and he said, it was just like a Venus flytrap waiting for a fly. I was like, oh my God, it just doesn't get worse than this. It's unlistenable. The amount of times I had to push mute just to shut him up. And also I thought, if you combine Tim Southey and Jimmy Neesham's bowling stats for the tournament, we talked about Baz Delata there, you have them bowling 47.3 overs together, and the opposition would have scored 413 for 9 of those 47.5 overs.
Good God.
A defendable total, that's for sure.
And what was the biggest shambles in this tournament?
Well, there was a few involving trying to get crowds into the ground.
Into the ground, yes.
No more so than I think it was the opening match played at Pune during the tournament. Well, sorry, the first match that was played at Pune, where they were 10 overs into the game and we're looking at the crowd going, this is appalling, there's just no one here. And then they did one of those drone shots above the ground and you just saw thousands upon thousands of people trying and failing to get through turnstiles.
Paul?
Yeah, and for me, I think it's just the administration leading in, like Josh from down the road, like just actually trying to help get fans from all around the world into the games. Let them know the schedule, get the tickets into the countries, get people from all over the world at these games. I mean, it feels like there was a massive missed opportunity. And honourable mention to the horrific shithouse field at Dharamshala. Very lucky there weren't some kneecaps left behind in that surface.
Yeah, that was precarious, wasn't it? It was horrific to watch. Now, boy, we're fizzing about this, aren't we, fellas?
Actually, yeah.
Test match. Well, yeah, it's a test match, so that's good. Test matches against the Bangers. Neil Wagner has been called up to the test squad for Bangladesh to replace the injured Matt Henry. Henry has been recovering in New Zealand after tearing his right hamstring midway through the ICC Cricket World Cup in India. Following further scans and assessments, it was deemed the injury had not sufficiently healed to have him ready and available for test cricket. With the first of 2 tests starting on November 28th, the decision was made to call up 63 Test veteran Wagner, who returned to the Plunket Shield in Dunedin last week after overcoming a back injury, which saw him miss rounds 2 and 3 of the competition. It'll be great to have Neil's skill and experience on the tour of Bangladesh, selection manager Sam Wells said. His record speaks for itself, and we all know what a great competitor he is. He's played plenty of cricket in the subcontinent, and I know he's really excited by the challenge ahead.
Yeah, fair enough.
Is he?
But I think we dropped the ball on this slightly, didn't we? When the team was named and we read out the team naming, and then we just kind of sailed past the fact there was no Neil Wagner there, and he
was dropped. He was dropped from that selection.
Yeah, which is kind of bizarre actually, and I'm glad to see him there because that's all he does now is play Plunket Shield and Test cricket, and he is a point of difference. And although he did look like his powers were waning against England in particular, who savaged him, he still found a way to come back and help New Zealand draw that series. And I have a feeling that the Bangers would rather face Matt Henry and a couple of the others than they would Neil Wagner coming around the wicket bowling every single ball at nipple height.
And it's worked before. He's played 1 test against Bangladesh. He got 7 for 116 at an average of 16.6 and a strike rate of 31. So, yeah, look out, Bangladesh, I'd say.
So I'm just wondering, actually, on that point, Jason, we've talked about the need for renewal in the seam bowling attack.
Yes.
And we did miss the fact that he was dropped. He wasn't unavailable. He was dropped. Do you think that was actually a deliberate part of New Zealand's strategy to perhaps look beyond the Southey, Bolt and Wagner triumvirate?
Well, they're going to have to do that at some stage. The issue that which we've discussed quite a bit about is the fact, well, replace them with what? Is it Kennedy?
Robert Kennedy. Is he making a
Robert
comeback?
Kennedy.
No,
I think so. Yeah.
There's a tall, lanky young fella, and he did.
Shipley.
Oh, is it Shipley?
Henry Shipley.
Yeah, maybe.
Ben Sears.
Yes, out and out pace. You know what I mean? Why not? But they're going to have to do something, and maybe. But I mean, yeah, I mean, Waggers did get taken to by the English, but we know what he can bring, and I think he'll be very handy over there. Just incidentally, the squad for those 2 Test matches: Tim Southey, captain; Tom Blundell, wicketkeeper; Devon Conway; Kyle Jamieson. Let's not forget Kyle. He's been the real forgotten man of the New Zealand side. He was our great white hope, wasn't he? And he's really struggled with injury and so forth. So hopefully he comes back into a bit of form. Tom Latham, who, by God, what a shocker of a tournament he had. That was just a shocker. Good player, don't get me wrong, but that was a shocking tournament.
What a time to push off the pickets there, Jason.
Daryl Mitchell, Henry Nichols, Ajaz Patel, Glenn Phillips, Rachin Ravindra, Mitchell Santner, Ish Sodhi, Kane Williamson, Will Young and Neil Wagner. Added was Waggers, deleted Mr. Darcy, and no Bolt, fellas, for the home summer.
Jace, where are the 2 Test matches, did you say?
Sheart and Morpeth.
Yeah, well, actually,
Select, you mean, don't you? You didn't mean to say it like that. And Morpeth, yep, that's right. Cool. Yep.
You guys.
Select is actually an interesting venue. It's way up.
Select, is it? You sons of bitches. I'm not reading locations anymore, just for the record.
I'm happy with that. Sorry, Dylan, you're doing some geography.
Yeah, because they normally play at either Chittagong or Dhaka, which the Merpa is part of Dhaka. But this one is right up on the border in the north of the country, and it's when you go to East London, and there's that huge Bangladeshi community there. The bulk of them, more than 80% of those Bangladeshis, originate from the Sylhet region. So just a little bit of Wikipedia facts for you there.
Great stuff.
We did have a piece of correspondence too,
yes,
boys, which said, "G'day, gentlemen. I've got a question for the podcast that, unless I've missed it, I don't think has been covered specifically yet. Considering the rise of Rachin, has Henry Nichols, barring injury, already played his last match for the Black Caps across all formats, even though he scored a fantastic double century in his most recent test? Keen to hear your thoughts. What do you reckon, boys?"
Well, no. He did score a double century. I think he should have been dropped before that double century.
Yes.
But they gave him enough rope, and he finally made use of it. Scored a double century, so it's very difficult. Mind you, they did it to Lou Vincent once, didn't they? He scored a double ton, then he was out. But no, it won't be Henry Nichols. I think that is out of the team for Rachin.
Yeah, I where does he bats 5? Yeah.
Well, this is what we've got to talk about. Where do we slot him in? Is he going to open?
Yeah, I would have Rachin at 5.
And Nichols at 4?
No, not on the side.
Okay. So you are agreeing with the anonymous letter writer?
Yes.
Did you write this letter yourself?
No. But you did make a point. It's interesting, isn't it? Talking cricket, but I want to be anonymous. All right? Why? Why?
I thought it was interesting enough. I didn't ask the questions, tell no lies. But yeah. I'm with Dylan. I think they're both in there. I think Latham and Conway open, Williamson at 3, Nichols at 4, Mitchell at 5, Ravindra at 6, then Blundell, Santner, Jamieson, Southey, Patel. So basically, under that scenario, in my head, Rachin Ravindra is competing for a spot in the side with the likes of Glenn Phillips and maybe Ish Sodhi. That's sort of where I've landed in my head.
Yeah.
I disagree. Anyway, that's okay. We're allowed to disagree.
Yeah, I think they have to bat him higher to make use of his talent.
That's what I think too.
I think 6 is
too much of an all-roundy kind of feel about it. Give him a proper batting slot.
He is going to be a top order batter for New Zealand for a long time. This is the perfect time to tell him you're a top order batter for New Zealand.
Let's get into the domestic game. Oh, sorry, Paul, did you want to say something?
No. I was just going to say, and let's not forget too that Henry Nichols' batting average versus Bangladesh, this is one of the teams he's very good against. Batting average of 56, which is not too bad.
Yes. Waiting. The Plunket Shield, round 4. Auckland 500 for 8. Solia 206. O'Donnell 102. Worker 52. Drew with Wellington 352 for 9. Severin 143. Greenwood 55. Delport 6 for 98. Canterbury 225. Matt Boyle 54. Randall 4 for 25. And 320. Folks 50. Mackenzie 53. Toole 6 for 90. Drew a CD 177 and 256 for 8. Jack Boyle 72, Cleaver 60, Bracewell 59 not out. ND 117, Georgeson 4 for 33 and 336. Popley 52, Carter 98, Duffy 6 for 89. Does Duffy come back into the frame a bit, boys?
He's now Otago's top wicket taker forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that, DC. That's across all formats, right? So he passes block.
So. Yeah.
That's a really nerdy stat.
Yeah.
Because he's still only 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th on the most first-class wickets for Otago. I did like the fact that Otago got his brother and his son in and the groundsman, and they got steamed in the dressing room to celebrate that occasion, which I thought was a nice touch.
Lumsden's finest.
Hey, the Plunket Shield table, Northern Districts atop the table on 58, Wellington 47, CD 43, Canterbury 36, Otago 20, and Auckland a woeful 17. Golden Box, Sean Solia 401, Nichols 393, and Kelly 360. Kelly from Wellington, Solia, of course, Auckland, Nichols, Canterbury. The Silver Sweatband, Cougar Line, Northern Districts 22, Nathan Smith, Wellington 21, and Duffy, Otago 21. Not only is the bulk of the season over, but a lot of it has been piss poor, someone writes.
Well, the good news is they've got 3 months off to get better because there's no more games till February.
Yeah, look, I've watched quite a bit of this on YouTube, and I've been getting a bit frustrated, a bit disappointed with the conditions they're playing in often as substandard. Club cricket-like conditions a lot of the time. Some of the batting has just been poor. You know, I just feel this should be offering more, and I feel like it has in the past. I just don't think the quality's been great. Perhaps I'm a little bit biased in that when I click it on, I'm watching for specific things, and if they don't happen, then you automatically think it's not as good. But this is a New Zealand team that needs renewal.
It does.
This Test team, and it's going to come from the Plunket Shield. And, I don't know. Just it's irritating me, and it irritates me how it's pushed to the margin so much that we have had the bulk of the season now. It's pretty much over. And Auckland, in particular, Auckland is a massive problem that New Zealand cricket is going to have to flip and address. It's the biggest city in the country, biggest population base, biggest pool of young players to choose from. They play in crap facilities. They play crap cricket, and it's got to stop.
Well, there you go.
Soapbox. I'm standing off it now.
Good on you, mate. The Halliburton-Johnson Shield, the female one-day domestic competition, 2 games played by all the sides at the moment. The Auckland Hearts atop the table on 7 due to an abandoned situation and bonus points. Central Hinds.
That's a terrible freaking name,
Such
isn't
a
it?
bad name. On 6, Otago Sparks 5, Wellington Blaze 4. All of those top 4 teams having won 1 game out of the 2. Canterbury Magicians 2, and Northern Districts Woman. Just straight Northern Districts Woman.
Yeah.
That's it. No fancy dancy names for them, pull forward.
Doesn't leave any wiggle room, though.
No, it doesn't. But right now it's time for Pull Forward's Cricket Violence Corner.
Pull Forward's Cricket Violence Corner.
Yeah, I want you boys to have a quick listen to this and just decipher what you think's going on here. Any thoughts, boys?
It's a daycare somewhere. Yeah. Number 1 kindy on Dominion Road in Auckland.
God only knows what that is. It's a hubbub.
Well, as esteemed cricket viewers and followers, I thought you might have known that was pretty obviously Shakib Al Hassan at a jewellery store. This is what's happened. A disturbing video of a mob attacking Bangladesh captain Shakib Al Hassan after the World Cup 2023 debacle has taken social media by storm. The footage captures enraged fans physically assaulting Shakib after Bangladesh's early, not for the timed out dismissal, by the way, but for their early dismissal in the recently concluded Cricket World Cup. Fans pulling him by his shirt, pulling him by his collar, throwing him to the ground. And
Jeez.
Yeah, but lucky for him, he's got heaps of bodyguards. So saved, rescued, and back to his jewellery shopping. We do not understand the levels of passion and fury that Cricket World Cup results incite. And our players just cruise around being pretty chill, don't they?
Yeah, I was going to say a stupid joke there about if he was in that jewellery shop for more than 2 minutes, would the alarm go off and he was timed out of there. But given what happened, it's probably not a time for flippancy, really.
He's all right. There was no bleeding. It's all good.
I just wondered too, on the bodyguard front, whether India really upped their bodyguard count too after losing the final. But mind you, so many of those Indian players, they live in just like, I don't even know how to...
Fortresses.
Yes, fortresses, a good word. They're huge. But there you go.
Let's not forget as well that, of course, because of the cricket schedule, Australia play India in a 5-match T20 series starting later this week. Absolutely insane.
Carnage. Hey, now listen, this summer the ACC is back on iHeartradio. Live ACC commentary of all Black Caps games, live and free, no restrictions and completely unfiltered, God help us. What could go wrong?
Testicles everywhere.
Yes, start 17th of December. Bangers versus the BCs versus the Bangers in Dunedin, 11 a.m.
Oh, that will be a ferocious start to the season. Although lots of the students will have left, I guess you'll have everybody that actually lives in Dunedin home for Christmas and ripping into it 8 days before the big day.
Great stuff. Hey, Paul, we've had so much great correspondence. If people are listening to this podcast at the moment, they want to get in touch, what do they do, mate?
Flick us an email to byc@beigebrigade.co.nz or slide into the DMs of the Alternative Commentary Collective or the Beige Brigade on Facebook or the Gram, and keep your epistles under around about 150 words max. That'd be awesome. Cheers.
Good stuff, mate. And Dylan, I imagine you've calmed down a little bit on the bounce there. You would have had a vigorous few months.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, if you haven't signed up already, you'll want to now, because today I've actually had a week off live sport this week.
Nice.
But
was that brought on by your wife?
No, it was brought on by just sheer
exhaustion
and inability to stay awake during the daytime. But this evening, look out, because I am posting up there an extract from my book, Modern New Zealand Cricket Greats, from Stephen Fleming to Kane Williamson. An extract going live tonight on Brendan McCullum, and a chance to win one of 5 copies. So dylancleaver.substack.com or Google Dylan Cleaver, The Bounce, and sign up.
Great.
And if you want to check that it's accurate, just compare it with page 101 of the book, because it's in there. Yep.
Good on you, mate. Well, thanks for taking the time to listen to this podcast. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Until then, we'll see you later.